Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. I'm John Doyle here sitting in for Hank Cisco, who's still convalescing at home right now. We're really pleased that you could join us again. This is our last show for this school year, but it probably won't be the last show you see of the Hank Cisco Show or the last show you see even this summer, as we have tons of backlog show. But this show is really special to me. So I asked Hank if I could take the opportunity to host today to find out a little more information about a place I care a lot about. So we have the opportunity today to talk to two folks from Brightview Senior Living, which is actually right here in East Norriton, although it extends far beyond that, and we're going to find out a lot about it. And so I want to talk to our guests, and so welcome. We have Lindsay Rexroth here, right? Yes. And Devon O'Malley.
Yes.
And it's good to have both of you here today.
Thank you.
Hank cares a lot about people who are nearing the end of their life. And part of that is because Hank is 95. And so he's had a long experience of what it means to be a senior citizen. Whether it's a senior citizen that's healthy or a senior citizen that's struggling with some physical issues or mental issues. And his wife passed from Alzheimer's and dementia, and so a person who's gone into memory issues. And one of the things I think he cares a lot about, and one of the reasons when we talked about this show, was that Brightview really offers a lot of opportunities. But before we get to all that, what I'd love to do is for you just to tell me a little bit about Brightview Senior Living.
Okay. So Brightview Senior Living is based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and it was started about 20 years ago. And really with the idea that there wasn't a great place for seniors to live. It was more about, the nursing homes and the hospital settings, but there wasn't a great lifestyle community. And I think that was really the base and the start for what Brightview was going to be. So 20 years ago, they started just in Baltimore, and now we range from Virginia all the way up through Massachusetts, with almost 40 communities. So it's growing.
That's super cool. Yeah. Any other things about the community in general you want to mention?
Well, so I think our community actually has been in the East Norriton area for 11 years now, which is hard to believe. It feels like it was just yesterday that we were just breaking ground. But 11 years, and we're just a really fun group. We have a lot of good fun and a lot of good residents that are here with us. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're located in a nice centralized area. It's really easy access on Germantown Pike, certainly. Like, it's great. One of the things when we were looking for a place for my mom to spend her time when we were uncomfortable with her living at home alone was a place that we could get to easily. I want to be able to have access so we can visit regularly. And absolutely driving down Germantown Pike, and there we are, a nice safe turn to this beautiful building. It made it really easy to make that adjustment. So how many communities do you have, though, in just Pennsylvania as opposed to the broader area?
Sure. Well, as of only about 2 weeks ago, it was just us, but now we are proud that we have another community, Brightview Devon, that just opened up right on the main line, and they, again, just opened up, I think, last week for their independent living portion of their community. So we're very excited to have another Brightview in the area.
And we went out for a breakfast with my family to a diner right across the street from that new facility. So we got to sort of see it going up. And my wife was like, "Oh, looks like there's going to be another Brightview here." So,
certainly.
So great.
Well, we're really excited to have a sister community not far from us and really give the community options. I think the Brightview Devon community really fits into that mainline setting. It's a 5-story building. It's a little bit different in character and design. And that's one thing that's really unique about Brightview is they will build their communities. They're not cookie cutter. They're going to build toward the surrounding area, really give a sense of what the community is looking for in not only the stylings, but what the residents would want to have in a community. Ironically, we're both the same size. We actually have 171 total apartments. So we both would feature independent living, personal care, otherwise also could be known as assisted living, and then our memory care. So the three different lifestyles really just depends on where someone's at in their senior years, and we work together to try to understand what's going to be the best fit for everyone.
And so as they developed that new community, were they responding to what they saw as a need in the community, or were they responding to an opportunity that, property became available, or like land open that they could take advantage of?
Well, land is definitely hard to come by in the mainline area, certainly, but Brightview is really reacting to what the seniors are going to need in the future years. So we're looking at expanding both for today's seniors, but also for tomorrow's seniors, and knowing that there's going to be a greater need. Also, more people looking for that lifestyle, not having to worry about the maintenance and really just being part of something bigger, which is nice.
How does having a sister community help Brightview East Norriton? Does it have any benefits for you guys there?
I would just say it's a little bit more of brand awareness, making sure that people are familiar with Brightview. And all the things that Brightview has to offer. But again, to Devon's point, just based on geographic location, being able to tailor to more folks if they like the Brightview model, but our location maybe isn't the right spot, then at least we have another option that we can offer for all of our residents or potential residents to take a look at.
That's cool. That's really great. One of the things that I'm wondering, and I know people probably listening are wondering because of preconceived notions, is what's the difference between something like a senior living community and a nursing home? And how can we address that so people understand what they're going to encounter if they come to Brightview?
Okay.
Sure. So I think that at least for Brightview East Norriton, I think what we really try and focus on is the socialization and the interaction. And I think the size of our community, it allows for more of that socialization because it is a very intimate type of environment. It's not too large. Everybody really knows one another. So the advantage of going to a community is that you're going to have some of that socialization, where a nursing home is going to be focused really strictly on the clinical. And although we can provide that care and provide some of that nursing assistance, we feel like it allows more of that home-like environment for them, and again, a little bit more of a comfortable home-like feel.
But you do have nurses on staff in the building, am I correct?
Absolutely.
So although we're sort of removing that as the focus of the building, there's still available services.
Exactly.
And if I have a doctor I wanted to work with too, what can I do about that?
So we work with 2 different doctors in the area, but then certainly we do have residents that have continued to live in this area, and if they have great relationships with their doctors, they can still continue to see those same doctors, those same specialists, but we provide transportation for any of our residents who don't drive anymore and need transportation out to their doctors. We can do that for them, so it gives them the convenience of getting to those appointments.
I think what Lindsay was saying, really is a lot of our residents come from within a 10-mile radius. Their families, they themselves, so they are really built into the community as far as their doctors. And we want to keep that top of mind and making sure that they can get to those doctor's appointments. So they would have that transportation. We work with families, of course, to make sure that any need that they might have really can be met with our services.
One of the things well, I guess I should pull the curtain back. So my mom, Fran Doyle, who probably 3/4 of the people who watch the show on cable, although not online, know who that is. My mom is a resident at Brightview, and she's been happy there. I guess it's about 5 years now, something like that.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It does, in fact. And sometimes she tells me she's been there 100 years, but that only means she's happy about it, right? She doesn't feel like it's a problem. One of the things that was really interesting was my mom prefers Phoenixville Hospital because many of the doctors from Montgomery, when Montgomery closed in Norristown, moved up to Phoenixville. And it's a long hike for us, but we take that hike together. But that meant that when we started to look for special services that we didn't have a doctor already for, we could come to the nurse at Brightview and say, look, we need her to have this sort of checked out. And services were provided in the building,
right,
which was a huge relief. Because aside from the fact of having to drive mom someplace else, which can be a stressor for her and for us, it also meant we didn't have to hunt for a doctor we could trust, that we knew was already handling people who were her age, and certainly was in a community where they were being supervised in a way that sometimes you go to a doctor and you just don't know.
Right.
Especially when you're going to a new doctor and you have someone who is not always as clear-minded about their experience with that doctor. So it's one of the things that we really appreciate about that community, and that's been a big help for mom.
Right.
Well,
I joke it's often we have all of the ologists that come into the building, and they're all vetted through. We want to make sure we have great references, we have great communication with those doctors, and really having a part where we can have the relationship not only with the doctor, the family, and the resident themselves to be comfortable. So it does make for a full circle.
And are there therapy services provided too, like physical therapy services?
There are. So we work with a therapy provider, and they can come into the community and provide the physical, occupational, and even speech therapy for our residents as well.
Okay, great. That's good. So there's lots of services around aside from what is really community living, which we'll get to in a
Right.
second. Why don't we talk a little bit about the different types of communities out, around the different types of senior communities that are available to people. If I'm going to go and look for a place for my parent or sibling or whatever it might be, as I start to do that looking, what kind of buzzwords, what information do I need to know before I walk into a place and start to make commitments?
So one of the big things is the different types of communities that are out there. There's a life plan community or a life care community, and that typically has a entrance fee that could be a sum of either from $200,000 all the way up even to $500,000 as a one-time fee. Sometimes they're refundable, sometimes they're not. So really about educating on the different types that are out there. Brightview is going to be what we call a rental community. So our residents are going to have a one-year lease that gives them the advantage. They haven't put up a large sum of money that they're worried about if they would get that back or what that timeline's going to be. So those life plan communities, really, they'll talk about keeping a resident there for a length of time, having a same cost, but you've also put in a ton of money into that account. So we go up against quite a few of the life care communities and also some of the fee-for-service, which will say, you're only paying for the care that you need when you need it. And Brightview's model is kind of the best of both worlds because it gives you both opportunities to have the care that you need when you need it, but not have to pay that large entrance fee.
Yeah, and not everyone at Brightview needs care. Am I correct about that? Right.
Correct.
So there's the facilities or the
community.
Me, right?
Community.
The community. See how I want you to catch me when I use language that isn't appropriate to what you guys are doing. The community itself is broken into 3 parts. Am I right about that?
That's
Correct.
What's the difference in those parts?
So independent living is going to be for residents who are still managing all of their what we call activities of daily living. So they're still able to get themselves up in the morning. They're still able to get themselves dressed. They're able to do their own thing. Some of our residents, they still work. They still drive.
Volunteer.
So they're so very, very independent.
Very active group of residents.
Very active as well. So independent living is just going to be for folks that are looking for a little bit more of a simple lifestyle. They don't have to worry about any maintenance of a home, even some of the landscaping. Of course, now we're getting out of the winter season, but whenever it comes to shoveling, that's always one of the big concerns, and ice is always a big concern as well. So for folks that are looking for less of the maintenance and more of the socialization, just more of that simple lifestyle. But then if a resident were to develop some care needs, then we look into the personal care, which is where we do have our nurses and our clinical team where they are able to provide with if a resident were to need bathing or dressing assistance, things of that nature, we're able to provide that service for them.
Great, and that would include things like managing medicine, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, which was for us really one of the real driving forces. So when Mom was living at home, one of the things we were worried about her going up and down stairs to do laundry. We were worried about the fact she had to pay for a new heater in the house and that kind of massive expense in her very locked financial situation. But the biggest concern for us always was this pill box she had that we were not sure she could manage effectively to keep herself from either underdosing or overdosing. And you have staff there who, in the personal care section of the community, does help make that.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's actually part of our plan. It's a medication management. It goes through a pharmacy where everything is dosed exactly when it's timed. And it really does help that management to make sure that they're really getting the meds when they need them and helping, just to make life a little bit easier for everybody.
Yeah, I love the fact, too, that, like, when Mom goes to get her medicine, it's her picture as opposed to just her name, so that if there's a staff person who's there once a week, in the beginning, there's no mistakes going to be made. Like, people's medicine is really being managed well.
Exactly.
And, when you have someone like my mom at this point who's now in your memory care, we'll talk about in a second, now she doesn't always believe she's gotten her medicine.
Right.
Had that been the first place I'd gone, that would have been a concern for me. But after I saw how the staff worked, I was like, no, Mom is forgetting. It's not that the medicine's not coming at the time it's supposed to. So why don't you talk to me a little bit then about once we've moved past maybe basic needs, maybe some physical needs or some general sort of structural needs like bathing or whatever to the memory care unit. How's that different?
So what we call our dementia care, we call it our Wellspring Village, is really dedicated for residents that have that diagnosed dementia that might need a little bit more structure, a little bit more support in their day-to-day activities. And again, it's the type of activities that we do even in the community are really geared toward making sure that they're keeping up and moving and, not just sitting in front of a TV all day. We want to make sure that they're active and very involved because the brain is a muscle. And just like any other muscle, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we really believe in trying to keep them as active as possible, keeping them up and moving as best as we can.
Just on Sunday, Mom was outside with the gang.
Oh, yes. She's got her posse.
She does have her little bundle of friends there with a staff person who was out there, and they were playing bingo, and they were doing they made flags for Memorial Day, and all of these things. And they're outside that unit, one of the things that was most attractive to my brother and my wife and I was the flower garden that's out there that's just startlingly beautiful. And so from her window on the first floor, as the plants bloom, she gets this sort of blossoming beauty that is just healthy for her as she makes her way through her days. How about in the other sections of the community? Do they have access to things like cable television, phone, internet, things like that?
Absolutely. So one of the things when looking at moving to a community, you want to make sure that everything is bundled together, and we call it our monthly service fee, and it's going to incorporate all of your utilities. It will include housekeeping. In our independent living, it's going to include breakfast and dinner. The activities, even transportation, are going to be part of that bundle, and it tries to really simplify life. It's a great opportunity for folks that, again, when you're trying to manage so many different things, medications and all these options, this monthly service fee will simplify life. There's no exchange of money anywhere in our community. It makes for a really great experience when family comes in and just being part of that. So you'll see the activities, which is another thing we can touch on, certainly, is the opportunities for live entertainment, which is a big, big part of our community. The outdoor space. We have lots of gardens and different places to go sit outside. So.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Mom, when she was in independent, or when she was in personal care, she was out front on that porch any day she was available with the ladies, having a wonderful old time. And now she's out in this lovely courtyard area. It's really beautiful, which is, of course, secured so that in her confusion that can happen sometimes, she doesn't get lost or anything like that. It's really great. You said two things that I need to address, so let me get to one. Food. Let's just talk about food. Because food's like a home run at Brightview. We have lots of students here who act as servers there, and aside from the fact they really enjoy that process with servers at other communities, we've heard less positive response from kids. The kids really seem to have a relationship. Tell me about how food works at Brightview.
So for independent living, our residents are already going to have breakfast and dinner included in their monthly rent, which I know Devon had touched on. Now, certainly, if they would like to have lunch, they certainly can. It would just be an extra charge, but it certainly is available to them. But having the breakfast and dinner available is something that they really do enjoy. I've had a couple of residents joke that they like the idea of not having to cook, but they especially like the idea of not having to clean up the dishes afterwards. So I've had a couple of residents bring that up as well.
But we can touch upon the independent living apartments all do have full kitchens.
Yes.
Okay, great.
So I've had people say, well, I still enjoy cooking. Well, the great thing is you can cook when you want. You don't have to cook all the time, and you can cook the things that you enjoy. So you're not giving up that love of cooking, but when you have family and friends over, you know that you can take them down to our restaurant or our pub for a meal. We have a fabulous private dining room that residents can reserve and have a really great family meal. Absolutely. So it's a great opportunity for those that still want to enjoy cooking. They have that availability, but know that the meals are going to be probably the best part. And a food committee, or I guess we call it dining council now, is a big, big part of our community. And certainly with over 200 residents, we have some discerning tastes. We want to make sure that we're really keeping everybody happy, and that's a hard feat for Jean, our dining services director. But the meals are amazing. You may even be able to attest having.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to that. Yeah, and hardly ever do we get a negative review from Mom or from my brother comes into town from California. He'll stay for a week with us and eats many meals over there, and because the food is good, he's really happy with it, and Mom certainly is happy with it. And there's certainly foods that aren't to her taste, but everyone has taste things they don't like. But that doesn't mean she doesn't enjoy almost every meal, and I get a phone call often And life sometimes for people in personal care and the memory unit certainly revolves around that structure
Right.
of mealtime, right? Which is
Absolutely.
critical to their mental development and or the support for them. So it's something that's really valuable. And they sit at tables, right? But they're not necessarily just being thrust into any old space, right?
No.
Absolutely not. So they can certainly, a lot of our residents, of course, they all are friends with one another, so they certainly have the choice to be able to sit, where they want, who they want to sit with. So that's one of the big things for us is, yes, allowing them to have the structure of here's where the meal times are going to be available, but you can certainly come, at your own time within that time slot and then sit with whoever you'd like.
And it's like restaurant style dinner.
It is
Yeah,
restaurant
it's,
style.
you
Full
know.
menus. The menu's going to be the same throughout the community. That's often a question, we might get as sales directors, whether you're in independent living, in our personal care or our memory care, you're going to be able to have the same menu options. We have an always available menu, so if the specials of the day are not to the liking, certainly we have a go-to. I joked yesterday one of our residents was getting ice cream. I said, okay, that works. And one of our Vibrant Living assistants, that's what she said. She says, this resident really hasn't eaten that much, and I want to make sure she gets something she enjoys. So I love to see that dynamic. You mentioned the servers. Oftentimes, I feel like some of the students, the kids, really become grandchildren. They get to know the residents, and they get involved and love to hear what's going on. Some of the kids come back from college, and it's a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know kids who've done that, so that's the thing. So why don't we then split to activities? So we talked about food, which is great. What about activities that you guys have available for people in any of the communities?
Sure. So one of the big things that we like to always talk about is that we have a model that we call our SPICE model. So it's going to really tailor towards spiritual, physical, intellectual, cultural, and emotional. So we believe that if we can hit all of those areas in some way in our activity programming, that you're getting a real full balance of different variety of different activities available. So whether it's a fitness class or religious services coming in the community or music entertainment, which we do have live music entertainment usually every Wednesday and Saturday evening. So plenty of different options for residents. And then we also have an activity council, which is where our residents can sit down every month and really sit down with our Vibrant Living director or our activities director and really say, here are things that we like about the calendar, we want to keep it, or, why don't we change that outing instead of going to that restaurant for dinner, why don't we go somewhere else as a different outing? So they're very much involved in deciding what they want to see on the calendar. So it's not just a corporate calendar. The residents just picked really what they want to see.
It makes the residents attend. I think that's one of the things when you look at communities and if there's nobody participating, it's not going to be very desirable. But in our community, because of that organic calendar and how they're the ones picking and choosing, today they went to the Habit Bar and Grill in King of Prussia. They have a lot of great opportunities, and we went to school shows. We like to really participate in the community. And you'll see that often in the way that the calendars are designed. But I think that council is really the ones that say, this is what we want to do, and we take care of it. I think Longwood Gardens was on the calendar maybe 3 times in the rain.
Okay,
We
all right.
finally got there, but we did a Valley Forge tour. It's really about the things that they might enjoy and bring it back. Our menu's even designed. We have a Schmitter sandwich, I know, is a local favorite. So different things like that we're going to bring apart in all activities.
And then you also have, let's talk about music coming in, because that's always great. And I'll tell you a funny story that Mom told me in the madness of her first couple of weeks in Wellspring. A bagpiper came in.
Oh.
And the women in Wellspring were unsure about whether this was noise or music. They did sit for the whole thing, but they gave the guy some trouble. But I'm there often on a Wednesday, and I come in late afternoon, and I'll see the performer come in. And the music is often targeted to the sort of age-appropriate folks in the space. But it's not like vanilla in its nature. So last night there was a guy with a banjo and a guitar. You know, there's a woman named Daniela who my mom is a fanatic. She's a fantastic singer. And each of those folks comes in with some different style. And that's why I bring up the bagpipes. And although my mom was like, oh, what's going on? What happened to me today? The idea is that variety is one of the ways we sort of keep people stimulated.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it really does work. They also do karaoke often down in Wellspring for sure. And the staff does karaoke to sort of lead the way.
We've got some incredible talent in Wellspring Village, don't we?
It's something else. And yesterday when the guitar and banjo person was performing, the volume of the folks singing along is part of how you know something's working, right?
Sure.
And this guy's not, like, he's not going to go record an album, you know, but the work he's doing with those folks is intimate and really does engage them. So I think that's great. But you also have big activities for, like, seasonal events.
Oh, yes.
Talk to me about that.
We do. So, I mean, what was it? We just had a event for Memorial Day. We had a nice little barbecue. You know, coming up next month for June, we're going to do a concert in the courtyard event. In October, we usually do a big fall festival. So we'll have craft vendors that will come out and have their little pop-up shops in our courtyard area for folks to buy. But then also for our fall fest, we allow our residents to display some of the work that they have done. And then any of the money that we make from that, we'll donate to some type of a charity. So it's just a good opportunity for the residents to really get involved and, again, invite the whole community to come and really enjoy our community setting and the things that we offer. So.
I think we're always looking for a party. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. The concert in the courtyard is probably one of my favorites. It's an opportunity for residents and families. Everybody's invited, and it's this year it's a 50s theme. So the team, our associates and our director team will all be dressed in theme attire, of course. Last year we had a Roaring 20s theme. The year before was a country theme. And we really try to do things that the residents are really going to love and have those memories and keep creating all of that for them. So it's a lot of fun to see them dressed up. I know many of our pictures are like the mariachi band. All the residents have the sombreros on, and you know, you just see lots of smiles, and that's a really big part of it.
And the holiday party is massive, right? It's like building wide, which is, I mean, it's an incredible thing, because one of the things I know people were concerned about, and we were when Mom moved into Wellspring, was her access to the rest of the people in the building.
Sure.
And although sometimes she doesn't remember having done it, we know she's still visiting with friends who she had when she was in personal care and far more alert.
Right.
And she's still able to talk with them, and they still check in with us when we visit. And that's sort of really, you know, an interesting thing to me. That brings into my head, talk to me about, so a married couple who one person is beginning to slip towards dementia and the other still firmly in the independent living community. Does Brightview have the ability to handle that?
Absolutely. I think it's something we really want to let our families know, that we can work through if care is becoming too much, especially when you have spouses that want to support each other. We have the ability, a resident can live in independent living while another resident lives in our memory care. And we just recently had a family that made that move, and you'll see the husband visits daily. He has all his meals with his wife, but then he knows that she's secure and safe, in the night, and those things that may have been causing some anxiety for him. So it gives family peace of mind as well. We'll see that sometimes even our independent living to personal care, just kind of giving that added support. And sometimes you'll see that residents will say, oh, I'm not so sure about it, but then they really thrive because we've taken so much of that onus and that stress off of them, off of the family, worrying about mom or dad, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and stress certainly is a big part of that dementia move, right? Like that can really push people out of their ability to be sort of mentally healthy going, and so relieving that stress is healthy for both parties.
Exactly.
And I think one of the other things that's really convenient about our community is the fact that the independent living, personal care, and our dementia care, Wellspring Village, everything is all under one roof. So it's very easy to, go and see your friend over in the independent living area while you're still in personal care. The apartment is in a different area, but everything's under the same roof, and all the common areas are the same. So for residents to be able to keep all their same friends, while still getting the care that they need is really important for them.
I joke sometimes it's just like separate bedrooms in one really big house.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Something else, and you keep bringing things up to my head. So another thing that I really appreciate, and I know my wife does too, my brother, is how welcome families are in the communities, in each of the individual communities. And I don't just mean like, yeah, it's great that you're visiting. So like I visit mom a lot, but one of the things I think that's really interesting is that the staff there is really responsive. So there are people who are caring for my mother who I have a relationship with, right? Not like, oh, you're the person that cares for my mom, but like I can joke with them and we enjoy each other's company and they know who I am. One of them calls me Fran Jr.
Fran Jr.
One of the staff in personal care calls me Fran Jr. when she sees me.
Okay.
And those, that kind of openness and flexibility, and certainly they know who I am because I'm there, so they know that I'm not going to be bothered by that phrase. But is that something that you try and cultivate, relationships between family
absolutely.
and the residents?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a really big part of just being comfortable. Often when we talk about someone moving in, it's an extension of their home. Sometimes someone will say, are we allowed to sleep over? Well, certainly. It's their home. We want you to be present. We want you to be part of it. And any activities that we have, just like you're visiting mom in her house, this is her home. And the caregivers, they really become part of your family too. And that's our goal and our hope. I know it's a hard process to get a job at Brightview. And because a lot of our residents, they really trust us. I think the associates wear their hearts on their sleeves. You'll see a lot of that, the caring, the compassion, the enthusiasm for what they do. And I love that part when I see the residents and the caregivers together.
A couple other things I just want to sort of lay out there is one of the things that, go into a nursing home or that kind of environment, there's these sort of mental thoughts we have, especially someone who's my age who had a grandmother who was in a nursing home as opposed to some kind of community that she would be in now today. And there's smells and there's a vibration and all that just doesn't exist. And so the cleanliness, the community's in really great shape. But talk to me about like upgrades and I guess renovation, that kind of thing. Is that happening in the community all the time? In the building. In the building.
Yeah. So yes, every year we look at what we call our capital contributions and capital improvements for our community. Those are things that over the years we will update the space. We want to make sure that the chairs, the furniture, everything really is fitting to what the residents are needing and being very home-like for them. Future developments I think we'll have, our cafes are going to get updated. We'll have a couple different things that we know is going to really make a good presentation for them and just how they use that space. So it's a constant, we got to keep up. There's a lot of senior living communities out there. We know that. I think going back to being a rental, our residents don't have to stay in our community. They certainly, so we're constantly making sure that they're happy with all the things that we offer and our services.
So a way they have some measure of control by virtue of the fact that it's a rental community, which means you're accountable to them in a way that's actually really healthy for them.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
They want to be able to have that choice. If they're looking at some of those communities where they put those large sums of money up, they're almost captive and it can tie up some of their estates. It doesn't give them that choice. And a phrase that we often call is our pick, and it's possibilities, independence, and choice. And it's about, letting our residents have complete control for everything they can. And as much as we want to help someone do that, we want to be able to give them the opportunity to do something first before we offer assistance.
All right. Yeah, that's great. I just saw the parking lot got redone or getting redone, right? It's a big job, and you've rearranged the parking, which I think is great because you've increased the number of spaces for people who are handicapped, and you've also made sure the residents have closer access than we visitors who can obviously walk the extra hunk of space, and all that's really, really great. And over the 5 years, I've seen so many changes in the building.
Yep.
I remember the great trauma that took place when one of the cafes was upgraded, and the women couldn't wait before they went into dinner in that cafe, and it's this big to do, and then it's finished, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Let me ask one or two more things because I know we're running out of time, and so I just sort of want to make sure that we get a couple other things out of the way. So when you look for a person to work at Brightview, what kind of person are you looking for?
So we're looking for, one of the big words that we like to use at Brightview is vibrant. So whenever we're doing an interview process, we want to look for someone who has that type of a vibrant personality. Because ultimately, somebody could have a fantastic resume, but if the personality isn't there, they might not really get along well with the residents, or the residents may not really mesh well with them. So what we look for is, do they have that caring heart, that vibrant type of personality? And of course the experience and the training as well. But if we need to do a little bit of extra training to bring somebody up to speed, if they have that type of fantastic personality that we know is going to really mesh well with our residents, we'll give a little extra training to make sure that they're up to speed. But really having that type of personality is something that you can't train somebody on.
Yeah, the enthusiasm.
You just have that. So that's really one of the big things that we look for.
Yeah, great. And how about communication with families and the residents themselves? How do you go about sharing information, calendars, events, memories, whatever?
So we really explore every option, of course, with social media. That we have a great Facebook site, but we have calendars that are distributed to all the residents. We will email families our calendar. They're posted everywhere. We have what I call communication boards. So when you're in the community, you get an opportunity to really see what's going on. Every day there is a today's activity sheet. It's posted daily, but it's posted the night before. So when they're finishing up their meal, they have the opportunity to say, oh, I know what I'm doing tomorrow. And often we'll call it like a docked cruise ship. You have all these great activities and amenities and really everything you need right there in the community. Certainly you can hop off the ship anytime you like, and if you have to go out, families, take our residents out. I'm sure you take Fran out and go to different activities, but knowing that coming home is a big part of, where they're going to be comfortable and happy.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things Mom says all the time is, this is my room. Like it's my room, and it is a rental space, right? But that sense of it being my room, and it's a space that she knows and she recognizes and she enjoys when she was in personal care, or now that she's in Wellspring. In both cases, it was very much about a commitment to this place that she was living and the people who were living around her.
Right.
Some of whom she didn't like, right? Because people don't like everyone.
Not everybody, yeah.
And some of whom she did, and yet they still participated in activities together. So, she's going to Glee Club still.
Yep.
And she makes jewelry, an extraordinary amount of jewelry.
Yes, I'm sure. She's full of jewels.
She is full of jewels.
What I love most is her ability to continue her teaching aspect. Even today, she has such a great way of, kind of getting everybody together, and I love to see that come through, which is nice. But
yeah, one of the other things about having a place that's local to you, and I think this is really profound for me, is that people come through your building to visit another relative, and they see Mom, and they know her from the school district here.
Yes.
And as a result, she's getting all of these, it's just temporal visits. But because the community is small, because Norristown's a small community in a lot of ways, those people are coming through, and it heightens the experience of being visited. And the same thing, Mom has some friends in Wellspring. She certainly has friends in personal care, and their families are people we know. Now, I'm not going to go to dinner with them necessarily, but when we walk in the building, we can check up on each other.
Yep, I feel that.
And that's great. And on that, this is really the last thing I want to, I guess, before I ask one final question, is the transition from community to community, from lifestyle to lifestyle, essentially. Do you guys help with that? Like, it seems like a big leap to go from being independent to in personal care for both the resident and the family. So what do you guys do for that?
So one of the things that we have is a program where we have a resident ambassador program. So it's essentially residents that just volunteer to essentially be that friend and part of that welcoming committee. So if it's a resident that is moving to the community for the first time, or whether it is somebody who is already a resident at the community but maybe transitioning to a different type of living environment, making sure that there is somebody that they can talk to, just to, again, have that friend to say, I live in apartment 123, and here's my phone number. You can call me, and tonight is music entertainment at 7 o'clock. I'm going to save a seat next to me. Why don't you come and join? So just to have that friend be there, and is already somebody in the community, so they're already familiar. really helps to put a lot of our new residents or our residents that are transitioning to a different type of the care environment. It does help to make that transition much easier for them.
Gives them purpose too. I think our residents really enjoy being part of the ambassador program, knowing what it's like to move in, and oftentimes they'll tell you they should have moved sooner. So I know a famous phrase that I say is our residents are the best salespeople we have. You know, they're going to be the ones to tell you to do it now, don't wait, come enjoy the lifestyle. And oftentimes we'll hear families, well, I'm waiting for something to happen, and it's like, oh goodness, please, let's try to figure out a way to make this come together. But on top of the ambassador program, we have a flourishing program, and that's sort of our orientation program. Not only do we do it for the new residents moving in brand new, but also the residents moving maybe from independent living to personal care, or even to the Wellspring Village. And it is an opportunity for our director team to make sure that resident is really getting integrated into their living environment, and making sure that they're attending the meals and they have an ambassador or somebody that's going to help them just feel at peace, you know, that familiar face. So the director team is responsible. The dining service director goes in. We have our vibrant living team, Lindsay and myself, our health and wellness team. So we're all going to be there just to kind of give that extra peace of mind. And we'll do that for the first 90 days, or as long as it takes for that person to really feel like they've been comfortable in the community. Yeah.
Is there anything else I haven't asked you that separates Brightview from the rest of the communities in the area?
I think a big part of when I talk to families, it's almost coming home. So many of the residents that we have living in our community really are from this area. They're from Norristown, East Norriton, Bridgeport, Conshohocken, Bluebell. But oftentimes what they'll tell me, it's like coming home. And nothing makes me happier than when I go in a community and I am giving a personal visit to a family, and they're like, oh, yes, I know this person. And then they'll say, oh, guess what? So-and-so is here.
Right. I went to high school with you. I've had a lot of those types of experiences. So that's really fun to watch.
So I think more than anything, we want it to be about coming home, you know, having that comfort of almost the old sitting on the front stoop and being part of a neighborhood. Right. You know, we have that very neighborhood-like setting where everybody does, you know, our size allows you to know most everybody. I think we take a lot of pride in knowing our families as well. I know that's one thing that I really enjoy, is getting to know the families and what sets us apart from the rest of the community. So if anything, I'd like the takeaway to be it's coming home.
That's great. So if someone wanted to find out more information, and we've been running stuff underneath the bottom of the screen all day, but if you just want to sort of lay that out for us, how would someone get a hold of you folks?
So certainly you can always call the community and just ask to speak with either Devon or myself. Or certainly just go on our website, and you can always submit a request for some information, and one of us will be able to reach out to you. So I would say those are the two best ways to really get in touch with us.
The website is it Brightview Senior Living?
I was going to say brightviewseniorliving.com.
And then East Norriton. So of our 40 communities, you'd be able to scroll down. So maybe you're looking for someone in New Jersey or in New York or even Massachusetts. You'd be able to read a little bit more about Brightview. But the best thing I can tell anybody is really educate yourself. We don't mind if you're a year out, 2 years. We have some people that are 5 years out, but it's about that education. We know that someday they'll want to have all that information at their fingertips. So come in for a personal visit. That's my number one thing. Come to an activity or an event that we have and get to know the residents. Like I said, they're going to be the best salespeople.
That's great. Yeah. That's super good. So, so I want to thank both of you guys, Devon and Lindsay, for being here. Yeah, it's great to talk to you. So I got to go because I can tell the kids are getting antsy all around me. And for high school students, this is not the most exciting program they've ever heard. But they all have parents, and they have aunts and uncles, and every single one of them should be paying attention right now. And Hank would love that I'm addressing them right now. They should all be paying attention. They should watch this afterwards, because all of them are going to have to make some decisions. And Brightview is a really great place to find a home for a person who is aging, who's a senior citizen, who is trying to find a place where they can either live independently without stress, or where they can get some extra support, or if they're beginning to experience more challenges with their mental health, that they can get some support there too. So we want to thank you guys for watching. Hank, if you're out there, hope I did a good job. Give me a thumbs up. And Rock, take care of yourself. And from all of us here at the Hank Cisco Show, thank you, and have a great summer. Got it?